Oh my gosh. All righty then. Hello and welcome to Reflect, Recalibrate. We are your lovely lady artivist hosts, Janet E. Dandridge and Danny Snyder. This is part 2 of the Transmuting Artificial Intelligence collection. Today we are chatting with some MC, writer, performer, creative director, AI specialist, researcher, ethicist, activist, liberationist, my brother. Welcome, some.
What's up, y'all? Thank you for having me. What's going on?
Yes.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right. So first of all, I just need to check our stuff just to make sure this thing is streaming live like I want it to be. Because this is the reality of doing this real time and being the technical director and asking questions and doing the introduction. Alrighty then, it is. So
you can do it.
I know, right? I know, right? So let's just get right into it. My first question is, or what I would like for you to do is tell us about your relationship with artificial intelligence in your works.
Um, Thank y'all for having me. First of all, appreciate you and appreciate you creating this space, and the work that you're doing is vital. Please keep it up. Thank you so much. Um, my relationship with I guess the simple answer is I'm an artist, I have all these like labels and stuff, that go with my work and what I do just so I can make sense for humans. But really, at the end of the day, I'm an artist. And so that's my relationship with AI. But the more sort of involved version of the answer is like my relationship is something that I never planned. I never once set out and said, I'm going to master AI, not until recent, like in the last couple of years. But my specialty and my expertise and my POV was already there long before I realized it. Long before I realized that I had any sort of grasp of AI, life in the universe had already been preparing me for this moment for the entirety of my career. So it's always been machine learning has always been there. All the things that you need to be proficient with generative AI, like being a prompt engineer and all of that is packed into my skill set as a writer and as a copywriter. The universe had basically been training me to be an AI specialist, the type of AI specialist and AI artist that I am. It had been training me the whole time so that I could be ready for this moment. So my relationship is one, an artist, and two, I don't know how to yet qualify what that part of the relationship is. I'm some sort of consigliere for humankind on for AI on humankind's behalf. Like I know AI and I have sort of a shorthand, and I understand. I feel like an intrinsic understanding of where things might go, and it's easy for me to communicate with people about where things might go with AI, and something in our relationship is embedded deep in there is cosmic.
I'm thinking about how you talked about the universe training you to train AI. I'm thinking about that. And I'm also thinking about it almost sounds like you're like a conduit in some ways, which is something an idea I've always been drawn to as a writer myself of like
Mm,
thinking about the ancient Greek playwrights. They were
mm,
conduits from the gods. Like they could not
mm,
take full credit for their work because they just had a special relationship with the gods, and the gods funneled their creativity through the playwright, through the paper. So I like this idea of a conduit from that perspective. But I'm thinking about, your mission, your purpose, and I'm thinking about the spiritual part of your
mm,
work,
mm,
especially in watching some of your videos and listening to your most recent album and how that plays a part in all of this
mm.
as well. And I'm wondering if maybe you can expound a little bit off of that. I mean, that was a lot right there, but like, you know, like what you're describing to me sounds like a really like a big purpose, like a big meaning. for why you're here and how you communicate both with humans and with computers,
Mm,
you know?
mm.
So I'm wondering, like, do you feel like you really like, this is my role, this is my why?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Very much so. It took a second for me to accept that, but it is what it is. You know, a lot of times as humans, we put a lot of significance on things that are just things. You know, for instance, the word conduit evokes, you know, these ideas of sort of like a spiritual hierarchy, and there are people who have these kind of special gifts where they can tap into the great unknown and, you know, explain it to humans, you know, who are not tapped in. And it's not really a special thing. If that were a real thing, I'm just speaking in the hypothetical, which it may be. It's not a special thing. It's just a job. It's just another job. You know what I mean? Some humans, their job is being super kind. Some humans, their job is being great parents. Some humans, their job is they have a special understanding of how machinery works and they are engineers. You know, some people they are immediately tapped in with certain music frequencies and they understand how to arrange music with their eyes closed, you know, masterpieces and artworks. You know, artists are tapped into their medium in a certain way, and we don't look at it as anything supernatural. It's just that's who you are. And so there, I feel like there are new archetypes kind of developing right now in humanity's evolution. And so artist was an archetype, and engineer is an archetype, and parent is an archetype, hunter, marksman, AI whisperer. You know, it's just another thing, you know, in the wild zoo of all the capabilities that we have. It's just a thing. Okay. So it took me a second to accept that. It's fine. You know, okay, cool. I was built to understand AI a certain way. It's fine. I also think generationally, you know, generations have their gifts. And, you know, older generations maybe were more tapped in with the land than we are, you know. Younger generations, younger than our age group, are have it. You know, I look at the way my kids interact with technology, particularly mobile devices, and it's just that there's an intrinsic understanding, you know, of how things work and the logic behind them. That stuff is planetary, cosmic, generational. This is my hypothesis. Sometimes, you know, you bleed over where you know, you might be in a certain generation, but you get gifts from other generations. And I feel like I have a little bit of a gift from the next generation or my kids' generation about just how AI feels. Like it's not foreign to me. It feels very, oh, okay, yeah, this is how this works. I get it, you know, and I feel like I know where it's going, and I know when something smells like AI, and I know when something isn't quite adding up. So, that contextualizes the spiritual aspect of things for me, that there are other things at play here. There are generational things, there are human archetype and human evolution things happening. And then on the spiritual level, which essentially is, you know, those things in, I guess, in another dimension outside of this physical realm. Um, there are certainly elements of the AI experience that could be qualified as spiritual experience, you know, in my trajectory and in my path. And so there is a big part of exploring that in my work and where that overlap is. In fact, I'm about to release a paper called AI and the Human Soul, where I kind of touch on it a little bit. But certainly, you know, I think with all advancements in technological advancements, there's always something spiritual at play. There's a story being told. And this is another chapter in that story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That leads me to House of the Red Solar Sky. I want you to talk about that in connection to the spiritual and in connection to what smells like AI. And as well as those archetypes, you know, because listening to the work, the music, looking at the visuals, having this experience that you built up for your audience in the creation of the work was fascinating
Mm.
because of its use of AI, right?
Mhm.
Because of how you were able to finesse the technology to your benefit so that you could build this community
Mhm.
around House of the Red Solar Sky. So can you talk about that?
Y'all really want me to go off the deep end. Y'all keep pushing me there.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not gonna go off the deep end today. It's Saturday morning.
It is
Excuse me.
early for you.
My kids are in the next room eating cereal. I'm not going off the deep end right now. But y'all keep go ahead, son. Do what you do. Do what you do.
Yeah, yeah, just go ahead. They know you.
Um, yeah, they do. Hmm, hmm. Well, I would say I started on House of the Red Solar Sky in 2020, and I was sort of a whole different person, and the world was a different place. I started work on the project, and then we went into the 2020 rabbit hole, the wormhole. That in my mind, I feel like we jumped timelines. We moved into a different understanding of how things work on the other side of 2020 going into 2021. 2021, I started getting called into a lot of medicine work, ceremonial work, and that's where I was getting pulled. And so I went and I answered the call. My family was going through a lot of, personal changes. We were moving and growing, and the kids were getting older, and starting to look for schools, and we're really becoming parents at this point. And I'm continually working on this album that I think, I'm getting into my spiritual self. But I hadn't really started, until I started doing the work and sitting down, with healers and sitting with the medicines and doing like some real tough work. And then there were other things going on in family, that were adjusting and changing. So I was evolving. What you're hearing on House of the Red Solar Sky is my evolution, into who's sitting here right now. Who's sitting here right now didn't write that album. I'm the culmination of, I'm the product of that album, of that process. So you're hearing the process that made who is sitting here right now. And so in that process of this revelation and understanding who I am and who I am as an artist, and I'm dealing with transformation and death and change and all the things, and my eyes, my aperture is opening up. At the same time, then AI kind of starts poking in there like, hey, I'm part of this story too, don't you know? All this stuff you've been daydreaming about doing for the last 20 years, guess what? I can do it. I can make it happen. It's me. I can everything you've ever dreamed of. All that stuff that's tinkering around in your head, all that wild stuff that people laugh at you at when you mention out loud, like, yo, what if I had a garden that just grew right around you real time? And people are like, there goes some again with his nonsense. Now you can do it, you know? Now you can show them. Now you can show them what's really going on inside of you.
I am the way.
Right?
And I was like, no, no, you're bad because and I at this time I was doing work that was actually anti-AI. I was in the community like doing work pushing back against predictive policing and all of the bias that's in the algorithmic training that goes into predictive policing, which is rooted in occupation and war and surveillance. That's my, with AI, that's the cornerstone of my understanding of AI is that it is a weapon. It can be weaponized. It has been weaponized by various militaries and various law enforcement and policing and surveillance groups, that whole apparatus. They love AI and they have been capitalized on it before they released it to the public for this moment that we're having now. So I was already built against, I was already formed against AI when it started kind of poking its way into my process. Like, hey, don't you see all these new tools that we're coming with? It's like a thing now. I'm a thing now. You know, you were pushing back against me, but I'm a thing now. And I was like, all right, cool. So let me kind of start, for me to be a true service to humanity, like right now, if this is taking off, then I have to kind of wrap my head around AI. I have to fully immerse myself in it. A good friend of mine, Marla Montgomery, who I think would be a really good guest for y'all. Y'all have a great conversation. She is uh creative director, executive creative director over at Yeti. Amazing photog. And actually she took the photo that is my album cover. All the House of the Red Solar Sky visual collateral, like she shot, you know. Thank you, Marla. Shout out Marla. But she told me she adopted early. And she was one of the first people who told me, like, you have to have a POV. Like, that's it. You know, you can't just be, I'm scared of it, or you can't just be gung-ho for it. Like, having a POV is everything. So I was like, okay, right on. So let me dive in and shape my POV around AI. I can't have an AI, I can't have a POV if I don't have an applied understanding of how it works. So that's how I'm going to be of service. That's how I went into it, is to be of service. I have to understand how it works. And then I went into it trying to understand how it works, and I was like, yo, this shit is fire. Like, I can actually, yo, and I'm doing stuff already off rips. This was my first inclination that I was sort of a whisperer. Like, as soon as I hopped in, like, I was able to spit out stuff that I wasn't necessarily seeing from anyone else, or I wasn't hearing in anyone else's experience. And so I was like, okay, well, clearly then I'm being kind of fast tracked here into my understanding of how to use the tools. Next thing you know, I'm like, well, let me start using it for concepts like House of the Red Solar Sky and other projects that I'm working on. And it fit right into every artistic vision that I had. It was like, in synapses you have in your brain, like, and it's like three receptors here. I always had two. And so the stuff will fire off. Then it's like AI showed up and I had all three. Like, okay, I can fully realize now certain things that I couldn't before because I had to wait on gatekeepers, or I didn't have the budget to hire certain people, or I had to, take the long route. Now I have a direct route to my imagination, and I can spit it out at a level that is up to spec for what I expect of myself as an artist. So it fit right into the whole process. I didn't plan on it. I didn't plan on AI being part of the Solar Sky experience, but it was just a very natural fit, if that answered the question. This is what happened when you catch me in on a Saturday morning. I'm a ramble.
We
You might
always
have
are,
you might
especially
have to
me.
rein me in. You might have to rein me in.
No, I'm the worst. So I'm wondering, I love how you talk about this transformation.
Mm.
Honestly, it reminds me of the opening of any really good TikTok. It's like, I used to be against this and now I'm for it. Or like, I used to be for this and now I'm against it. Like, there's always
Mhm.
like this kind of
Mhm.
like 1 minute, hey, this is where I'm coming from. Here's
Mhm.
some context. So this is why you should listen to me because I actually have like some knowledge from all the
Mhm.
different perspectives.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering now in your work, I'm wondering about the activist part of what you
Mhm.
do in regards
Mhm.
to AI. Like,
Yeah.
how are you telling people to use AI or
Yeah.
not use AI,
Yeah.
et cetera, especially as an AI ethicist? So can you
Yeah.
expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I feel like a big part of my work right now is in it's a duality. There's one part of me that is, and also I'm a contrarian just by nature. It's the Aquarian thing. I don't know. So I'm always trying to find the kinks in the armor, the chinks in the armor of the popular wisdom. And so on one hand, there is a ton of hype around AI, and there is a ton of misinformation around AI. And we're watching the same story play out that we saw play out with social media, which is one of my arch nemesis in my rogue gallery of villains that I have to deal with every day, but I hate it and it hates me. Social media, um, yeah, with the AI, there's a lot of hype around it and people capitalizing on it and people chasing bags for it. And that is a very harmful situation because we're developing tools, we're releasing them too early, tools that have baked in biases and harms. Um, and we're watching the same story play out that we saw play out with social media again. And I'm like, okay, so we about to do this again. We about to have the tech barons really just scoop up everything and tell us that it's scary and take it slow while they slice up the pie behind closed doors, and then they win again and we help them build tools without getting any equity stake in the tools. That's not it. That's terrible. So there's one part of my activism that speaks out against the tech establishment and the technocracy that is at the wheel right now. And we don't need to be outspoken just for the sake of being outspoken. We need to be outspoken in the name of having ownership and a seat at the table. A seat at the table. I don't really like that phrase. I don't use it often, but having a voice in the discussion about where AI is supposed to go, because this is supposed to be a tool for our elevation and to help us solve problems. That's what it's supposed to be. We really don't need to be focusing all these resources on making artificial cat videos. Like, we don't need that right now. You know what I mean? But that's where the fucking can I curse?
Yeah, yeah.
That's where the fucking money's going. You know what I mean? To animated cats.
And we talked
And
about that in the last episode too. We did
mhm.
talk about that, I think, about these, excuse my language, dumbass cat videos that my boyfriend keeps sending me. That I'm like, stop sending me
Not
AI
the
cat videos. I don't want to look like that's a whole other thing. Sorry.
Hey,
But
shout out
yes.
boyfriend, not the boyfriend catching strays. Hey, bro, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? We need our peace. You know what I'm saying? Significant others, we need our peace. For some, it might be cat. But yo, if that's your whole business model is cat videos, you know what I mean? Like, yo, get out of here with that. And it's all kind of stuff that's wrong with that. The resources and the carbon footprint that generative AI leaves behind. The human labor, the sweatshop labor that goes into training the models. It's so much unfairness and inequity that is like reeks of all the traditional capitalism that we fight against. It's happening again. And so a big part of my activism is fighting against that. Like, the people need the people's AI. You know what I mean? We need that. And we need to decolonize the knowledge around AI and make that available to the people, to the children right now. As much as we're teaching them how to be good producers and training our children to go out into the world and be good workers and good citizens, we need to also be prioritizing that they have a firm understanding of artificial intelligence. So a large part of my activism is in decolonizing AI. So there's the decolonizing piece. That's fuck the status quo, right? But then there's the part of me that also is like, but artists who are just anti AI, people who are just it's the worst thing ever. Like, y'all need to simmer down too. Like, calm down. You know what I mean? Did I shots fired? It's
No.
not you.
But I
Okay.
was being very honest in the last episode about I have a lot of fears and guilt connected with AI. So I'm
Really?
trying to be open-minded about it, but
Mm,
like my instincts from the beginning were like, no, this is bad, this is bad. So
yeah.
that's why this has been super
Yeah.
eye-opening to me of like, okay, like embrace it because I love what you've been saying of like, you can't be critiquing it until you're really in it and you're
Yeah.
experiencing it and understanding it. And that's the truth. Like I still haven't even messed with ChatGPT yet. It scares me. So
Mm,
it's like I'm
mm,
trying little things and I'm like
mm, mm,
researching more. But yeah,
mm.
I ain't got the right to like be really scared or critiquing it until
Well,
I've
I
like
think you do
tried
though.
it. Well, until like I know it more. Like I have don't know it enough. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel like very honestly, I feel very ignorant of
Well,
AI.
well, I think this is part of that transformation, like that pivot that some was talking about was with really being against, right? And then now utilizing it. So with that being said, what is the critical examination? How would you tell people to critically examine AI for a person like Danny or someone who who is just like, yeah, I'm not ever using that? What would that critical examination entail? Like, if you could give some people a list of things to do.
One, it's paying attention to the history of technological advancements and art movements. I always like to liken AI to the allegory of hip hop. Where I come from hip hop culture. That's the art movement that raised me. And at the beginnings of at the inception of hip hop, there was a lot of pushback. What you have to remember about hip hop is that it was a technological first movement. These were people who didn't have access to traditional music instruments, music classes. They couldn't go out and buy electric guitars or drum kits, but they had something to say and they had something to express about their realities and what they were seeing. And they felt that they had right and sovereignty to use music and art to do that, to make that commentary. And so they used what they had, which was their parents' records, their sampling machines, which were pretty easy for a few kids to piece up on the block. They had and laying drum machines, and they made what we call hip hop now. And at the very beginning, there was a ton of resistance from the artistic status quo. The music status quo was like, this isn't real music. Um, these people don't understand what music is. It's going to threaten, if this takes off, it's going to threaten the livelihoods of real musicians, because then you're going to open the floodgates and all these people who aren't trained musicians are going to come in with these new musical ideas and put us out of work. And they're able to do it like so fast and so quick. They don't even have to compose anything. They just sit there and press a button and then music comes out. That's not real music. Hip hop had to deal with all of that, and we now know a full generation and a half later, maybe 2 generations later, that it certainly is a very valid art movement. And the tools that it chose to use were valid tools. So when it comes to AI and art, I always try to tell, and people who are immediately resistant to it, I always point to history first. History is always the best teacher. History is always the best teacher. Now, history also carries lessons of what happens when the wrong hands get around the technology. The technology is never the problem. The technology is never the problem. The technology itself. It's the people who are making the decisions about how to use the technology. And typically they want to figure out how to use the technology to make money. That's where the issues come in. So AI is not an issue. AI is just a massive processing protocol. Really, that's all it is. It's another way for us to process information and create new types of information. So it's empowering us in a way at its base level. True AI. There's a lot of stuff out there parading as AI that's not AI. But true AI
Wait a
is
minute,
a
hold up.
tool.
Like what? Like what's parading as AI and not AI?
I'm just saying there's a lot of tools and devices out there that, you go and Google like, what's the best AI for SEO optimization for my podcast. And then whatever the top 10 results are, don't trust them. They're probably not AI. They're probably just some regular SEO, some regular search engine optimization tool that's now somebody slapped AI on it so that it can get to the top of search results. And it behaves like AI or it behaves like
Mm-hmm.
machine learning.
The
So
disinformation,
yeah, so
right?
there's a lot of that. That's back to my other piece, pushing it back against the status quo, is that hype piece right there. People just slapping AI on things that aren't really AI. So when it comes to the artist, and I talk about this a lot with my artist students. I do workshops and tutorials and sessions for artists. That's also a part of my activist work, even though I get paid for it. I work with artists or whoever, even if they don't have the budget. And I think Janet, you took one of my sessions too. We had a session last year. So
Yeah,
I
I'm i
talk.
I'm i I'm gonna ask you about that later on for sure.
Okay, cool. So I deal with a lot of artists who are mature people who have been at their work for a while and are establishing their careers, and they have misgivings and fears and trepidations about AI, but they're feeling all this pressure to like accept it and receive it and be okay with AI, but they don't know what to do with that. They don't, and it's like I'm literally at my core scared of this technology. Like, and everybody wants me to embrace it, and I don't know what to do with that. So how should we work through this? And so I talk with my students about this a lot. Like, start with history, look at historical patterns. Typically at the beginning of some massive movement or inflection point, there's a lot of resistance from the status quo. Particularly the artistic status quo. And then eventually everything calms down and everybody's okay. This is a pattern we've been through a few times. So it's okay. We're in a spike moment right now in that pattern with AI. Look at that. And then the second thing I tell them is don't just hop into it just because you're feeling the pressure. Look for a problem that you want to solve and look for a project that you're working on. And then ask yourself if AI can help you solve the problem. And then this is how we begin to look at it as a tool and not an inevitability. A lot of the hype around AI right now is like it's an inevitability and you have to get with it or else you're going to get left behind and you're going to be obsolete and you're going to be a relic and you're going to be a dinosaur if you don't understand it by the end of 2025. And it's like I tell everybody I talk to, like, F that. I just got a text from my mom that said, watch your language. So F that. You know what I'm saying? I see
Oh,
you, mom.
hey,
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 mom.
mama. Hey, hey,
Mom.
hey.
Sorry.
So so don't do anything that doesn't feel natural to you. Mm-mm. No, not right now. Not right now. So particularly with AI, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel like time, find someone to talk to first. You know, come talk to me. Find another artist out there who has embraced it and see what their take on it is. Talk with other artists. This is how we build community and this is how we exchange information now. We can't do it on social media anymore. That paradigm has kind of like lost its usefulness. So talk to other, look at the historical pattern, talk to other artists and then develop your POV. To understand that it's a tool first and not an inevitability, and then develop your POV through use cases. Take your time with it. It's just a tool. It's like Photoshop or Microsoft Word or anything else. You know, Figure out how it works for you.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Photoshop because that was part of the conversation in part one of this collection. Photoshop and feeling bad that you're using Photoshop, Danny, which I said it's okay because it's a tool,
Yeah.
you
Oh, and I use it all the time, but I still feel bad
yeah.
about it.
Why?
Why? Well, I mean, for me, I feel like, especially if I'm doing collage work, I should be cutting the paper. I should be painting it. I should be making it with
Oh,
my hands. And when I can
yeah.
do it in literally a quarter of the amount of
Mm,
time through Photoshop and with the exact images that I want, instead of
mm-hmm,
what I just have available to me in the
mm-hmm.
magazines I get donated from the library or whatever, it's like, oh, I feel a little bit like I'm cheating the system here. But it, you know, this is, I
Mm.
perpetually feel guilty. So this is just a general thing I'm
So
working
it's just
on
on
in life.
brand.
Right, right. But yeah, no, I do think about, I will be honest, this was something, I'm thinking a lot about is like, we talked, drum machines. I'm a drummer. First when a drum machine came out, I'm like, am I going to have a job? Then I, did photography and videography. And then when everyone was able to like do their own headshots and I didn't have to take actors' headshots anymore or like film their own content, they didn't have to hire me anymore. I was like, am I going to have a job in that anymore? You know what I mean? And I always have still had a job. I've always still
Exactly.
had a job. And my
Yes.
job has changed multiple
Sure.
times, but it has made me wonder, cool, if I can do all this stuff more efficiently,
Yes.
faster, make more work, but then
Yes.
also I don't need to hire as many people. I feel
Yes.
extra guilty about that. Like that's the part where I'm like, okay, first I'm not getting hired as much to do like music videos, for example. I used to do that a
Mm,
lot. Not
mm.
really being hired as much to do that anymore because a lot of people can do it on their own
On their
now.
own. Sure.
And they can do it really well too. It's
Mhm,
amazing. Like even what my
mhm.
kids in these schools that I'm going to, like I'm talking like middle schools and high schools, stuff that they're editing on TikTok, it just blows my mind. I'm like, you just
Yeah.
did that in how many minutes? Like, so
Mm,
I'm like, I'm thinking about too, like, I want to still hire the people that I hire because I want to put food on their plates too.
sure.
So that's the part where I'm really like, ooh,
Well,
squirmy.
yeah, yeah. Change is usually real big change is never comfortable, you know. That's what it is, and that's the nature of it. But as you just cited in your own pattern, typically things even out, right? In homeostasis. Shoot, I was around Janet and my other photog friends when Instagram started popping, and all of them were, I remember, you might not even remember. I was like, oh my God, everybody thinks they're a photographer now. Filters, filters, filters. The whole world is about to be a filter. You know what I mean? All my photog friends. And in a sense, they were right. In a sense, they were right. You know what I mean? But they're all still fine arts photographers and working photographers. Like Nobody became a professional photographer off of Instagram posts. I mean, not very many people off of their phone mobile stuff. They became another type of creator, which is what this pattern is showing me and what the internet era has shown me is that, we don't necessarily eliminate archetypes. We just create new ones. You know what I mean? So there's the actual traditional classic photographer, who actually understands the nuances of the craft. And then you have this new archetype that's more of an internet creator, and they make cool visuals too, that are for the internet and for a particular type of audience. And the archetype is now creator. You can be someone who takes photos and makes little short films, and you specialize in content. Your stuff is for an audience. We're making stuff for art or for work. You know what I mean? Your stuff is for audience. It's why what I've been saying a lot lately out in the public sphere is like the creative needs an industry, the creator needs an audience, and the artist needs the art, you know? And I can identify with all of those
Hold
archetypes.
on, can you just say that one more time, please?
Yeah. The creative needs an industry. So I'm a creative professional, I'm a creative director, I'm a copywriter. Like I work in marketing, I use my artistic acumen to get jobs and make work and work in agencies. The creative professional needs an industry. The creator needs an audience. This is your content creator. This is your content marketer. This is your person who is making stuff for, internet consumption, typically digital consumption and audiences. That's the creator. The artist is the person who is making the thing because they have to make the thing. They don't need an audience. They don't need an industry. They would be doing this if no one was around. This is what I do. I write songs. I'm a writer. I write raps when no one else is looking. I have 1,000 raps in my phone or in my book that no one will ever hear. I don't care about putting them out. It's just what I do because that's my medicine and that's who I am.
Hmm.
So, so anyway, we have these new archetypes that come on the heels of technological advances. And AI is just going to create another type of musician, another type of visual artist, another type of writer, another type of, artist. So that's what I see happening.
Mm-hmm.
There was something else I was going to say to that. I can't remember, but it'll probably come back later.
Well, you're making me think about the fear that a lot of people, what we're talking about, that fear factor,
Yeah.
the fear of the
Oh,
unknown, the
yeah.
fear of the new. Go ahead. You
Yeah. Don't mind me.
did you I thought you remember what you was trying.
I did, and just that quickly it went right back out.
Oh Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, when talking about the fear, right? And thinking about how you used your hands to show us this sort of hierarchy. That's
Yeah.
that's what it looked like. An
Yeah.
artist was like down here. And what it made me
Oh, no,
think
no, no.
about, and I know that's not what you mean. I know the
Oh,
artist is not at the bottom, but it made me think about the exploitation of the artist because the artist does it because they have to, right? It's like this is what you gotta do, right? And you
okay.
said something before about activists, and you said even though I get paid for it,
Mhm.
right? Like
Oh, yeah.
an activist is supposed you and I was just having this conversation this morning with my significant other about the payment that you need to get for the work that you do because you are an expert in your field. You are
Mm,
putting in the time, but
mm,
related to the artist element, and the reason why there's this thing called the quote struggling artist is because the value of what artists bring to the table in the United States hasn't ever been uplifted in that way, right? So you made me think about exploitation.
okay. First, Kendrick Lamar would like a word with you. And secondly, you did remind me. So the idea that was kind of floating in and out of my head. It's all kind of related to this. And the reason I wasn't holding on to it is because I was like, that's not that important. But then y'all you keep bringing me back to it. And it's this idea of structures and paradigms. Us holding on to certain ideas and things. This is a big part of why the AI moment that we're having is so important because it is forcing us to face things that we haven't faced in a long time. Structures, ideas, paradigms, things like work and things like jobs, things like value, structure, hierarchies, things that actually are not, they're actual constructs. Like I'm not the everything is a construct person. I don't walk around saying that. But with regard to this particular conversation and line of thought, all these things are constructs that we need to be ready to face and to let go. Like um value of my work. So when I say, this is something that my workshops or whatever is something that um, I consider a form of activism, even though I get paid. What I'm saying is, this is something that I would rather be doing for free. I would rather not have to charge because it is my work to help lift consciousness and help expand the conversation. Unfortunately, because of the capitalist structures that we are in and the pressure that we are under, I have to figure out how to monetize certain aspects of what I do, not by choice. It's not because I want to and I want to be recognized for the monetary value of my expertise. I don't care about that. My expertise is here for humanity's service. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately. Now, if you about to use my expertise to go and build your empire, then you got to pay me, shout. You got to come up off that bag. Oh, where are you about to take my ideas and go do some work and go make millions? Yes. So where do I send my invoice? You know what I'm saying? But if you're just an artist who is you're just an individual, or you're someone who is walking on behalf of the community and humanity, and you just trying to figure things out, I would much rather not have to charge you for what I'm good at. Like, I'm here for you. That's what we're here for. We're here to get better. We're here to get better. We're not here to make money. We're not here to survive. We're here to get better and have fun and dance and listen to music and make art and make babies. That's lit climb trees and eat good fruit. That's literally what we're here for. We're here to go swimming in the waters. We're here to go running down the beach. We're here to make boats and get in the boats and then sail to the other island and then go smoke whatever they have on that island and then go back to where we're at and gather fruit for them and their family for next time we go visit them. That's what we're here for. We're not here to make money off my expertise as an AI specialist. Like, listen how stupid that sounds in the context of the humankind that I just spoke to. The humankind that I just spoke to is we're here to run the earth and enjoy the weather and love on each other. You know what I'm saying? We're not here to learn from some about ethical AI frameworks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Yes. Yes,
I mean,
and
so why do so me charging is just it's a symptom. Me making money off of what I do is a symptom of the sickness that we're in, that is this, symptom. So yeah, there are certain things, yeah, they're real, but are they real in perpetuity? You know what I mean? A lot of what we think is real and true, like the fear that comes, think about the fear that comes with, oh no, is AI going to take my job? Think about that. Think about that. What at the root of that fear is a fear that you will not be able to survive because your livelihood has been wrapped up in your skill set. Because your skill set has been commodified and capitalized on. You can't just be who you are. You have to figure out how to make a living being who you are because we need to turn that GDP. You know what I'm saying? We need to turn the gears of commerce. And so as AI comes and challenges that thinking, we're going to have to let go of some scary things, some things, some big things that we just accept as normal. Like the whole idea of making your living as an artist or as a creative or whatever, what is that actually tied to? So I know I've gone off into a theoretical deep end, but this is like, it's the heart of my work. So back to what I was saying was when it comes to the other part of my activism is back to the artist, you know what I'm saying, is helping the artists who are anti-AI, like kind of put things in perspective a bit. You know what I'm saying? Put things in perspective. Like it's okay. And then think about all the potential like people we're going to liberate with this technology who before didn't have access. Like you don't understand how much privilege you have as an artist who has computers and internet everywhere. You just walk outside and you're walking through a literal field of internet waves because there's so much internet around you. You have Wi-Fi around you, accessible everywhere. You can go and get your latte and sit down in a sea of Wi-Fi and make things happen. You don't understand how much privilege we have to do that and make a thing. We can make a film. We can go shoot a movie on our phone. and then edit it in our phone and go somewhere and upload it on our computer. And then boom, we have a thing. There are people across the world who don't have access to that kind of productivity or who didn't before certain generative AI tools came along, and now they can express themselves on par with where we are, you know? To me, that's a great thing. And it's going to push us because now it's about to be a whole generation of artists coming up behind us who all they know is AI. They grew up with AI, you know what I mean? And so, and they're nice with it, and they're swift and they're clever, and they've pent up for generations. They've had all this pent up artistry and creativity that they didn't have the outlets for, and now they have the outlets, and that's going to be good competition for those of us in more privileged areas of the world, because now we're going to have a generation of folks coming from the global South who are like, yeah, okay, I see your content, cool, you know, but you know what I'm saying? Look at what we got cooking over here. So
because we've been using these things in other ways too already. It's a group of artists that did this work called Disobedient Devices. And I think this was in Kenya, where they took I think it's called Aroha, which is the discarded devices from, places like the United States of America. And they used those devices. They transmuted the use of those devices into different forms of art, right? They did different experimentations using those devices. So just to speak to what you're saying, if you were already using the devices itself in another way, and now you
yes,
actually can use the device as it was actually created to be used, the artwork that is going to come from that is going to be amazing. And that idea of what will be when artists have these additional tools, in addition to what they were already thinking with not having anything, going back to the hip hop, how you explain how hip hop was birthed, right? And look at it now. I'm excited about what will come from this. I am still concerned about when you said, for example, walking through these internet waves. I'm like, that's real unhealthy. That's real unhealthy. I'm
hmm
still very concerned about its impact on our environment
Oh
and
man.
our physical health, you know,
Yes.
but it's a tool. I just think also about when I wasn't on Instagram back in that day before I went to
Mhm.
Paris the first time. I don't know if you remember, but I was just like, I
Oh,
ain't
I
using
remember.
Instagram.
Mhm.
And people were like, Janet, you're going to Paris.
I
Won't
appreciate the
you
things I'm
document
learning.
this?
I appreciate the things I'm learning about Janet right now.
Oh yeah.
and I
Janet
and
is
I'm
a legend.
and I'm still like, don't really like
Yeah.
the socials. Don't really
The
like it.
Soch. Well, but like I said, like y'all were right in a lot of ways. It desensitized people to the beauty of photography and the effort that goes into making a beautiful photograph and understanding the thinking that goes into great composition and all of that. But also some of that is ego. This is what when I go back to things that we're going to have to let go. Like how much of that is actually valuable? How much of it is actually valuable to know the stuff that makes us feel like this is a photograph. You know what I mean?
Photographers had to fight. Photographers have always been fighting in art history to be
Yeah.
accepted as
No,
artists.
this I know. But just in general, I'm saying visual arts. So let's step away from photography. You know what I mean? We can even throw music into the conversation. Like I had to go through this with music, like but way before AI. I had to go through this with hip hop and hip hop production. You know what I mean? Like, as things started to change and then we got away from sampling and some of the more analog approaches to hip hop music production, there's a moment where those of us of a certain age were like, oh my God, it's changing, it's losing it's going away. Hip hop is dying. You know what I'm saying? And everybody was a little bit right. Like we were right. Just like the traditional photogs and visual artists, classically trained ones, felt a certain way when the digital versions came along. You did lose something in the fidelity. We did lose something in our understanding. We did lose something in the new types of hip hop production. There's something lost. We lost a connection to the past. That's a big one for me because when we stopped sampling, we immediately cut off our connection to the music continuum of the past. That's how my generation of hip hop artists learned about Steely Dan and Parliament Funkadelic and Sly and the Family Stone is because the records that were sampled. We had to look at them and we're like, oh, okay, this came from Sly. Oh man, that's a dope song. And then we dove into his discog and then we became music nerds. That was part of being a hip hop artist was you had to be sort of a music nerd to get it. But the following generations, that wasn't a requirement for them. And there's a little heart pang, like, dang, they missed out. But, the value is perceived. The value of that is perceived. It's something that we know is valuable, but these people are still making amazing music without the samples. They had to learn how to make music without, and so they were empowered in that way. And they can produce and compose and mix and arrange completely independently a lot of times, of the sample. They don't need that connection. So the value is perceived. A lot of the value that we attach to things is like human structure hierarchy stuff. Like you're not a real this unless you go through this. You know what I mean? It's not a real this unless you're doing this. Why do we do that? You know,
Where
those
does that
those
come
val
from?
yeah, those exactly. Where does that come from? And that's what we have to examine. And so moments like this, we have an opportunity to examine why we behave the way that we behave. Why do we put value on certain things the way that we do? And why do we attach significance and meaning to things and processes and values and hierarchies, and where does that come from, and is it serving us moving forward, I guess is where I'm getting at. And so this is part of my work is in trying to understand that dichotomy and then articulate and ask the questions that will provoke thought um, for this moment.
So I want you to share more about, how you are doing that in this moment. What tools, AI for the people,
uh,
and your projects that you are currently working on right now.
okay. So I just finished my first AI product. It's called Long Shadow, the Sunbot. This is a bot, a chat bot, essentially a LLM that we've been working on. This is my group, Digital Action Committee, and the Seritas Research Group. Um, this is a bot that we designed that's trained on all of my lyrics and all of my raps and all of my songs and a bunch of my work. And you put in a prompt and then it spits out, a song, allegedly in my style, allegedly using my writing techniques. Um, it often does not, which is great entertainment. Yeah. It's hilarious because it's actually like kind of terrible, but it's like me if I was more terrible, of a writer and a rapper, which is fun. It's like hilarious. So the point of it is it's a fun experiment and we'll put it out and let the people have fun with it. But the point of it is that I believe that in the future, my daughter's generation everyone will basically have their own army of bots. This is the future that I see. Everyone will kind of have their own army, their own fleet of machines that are trained on their work, trained on your POV and your sensibilities. So I don't know how that plays out, but I can see a paradigm where, I have a bot that's trained on my rhymes. I have a bot that's trained on my writing as a writer. I have a bot that's trained on my strategic briefs as a creative director. I have a bot that's trained on my community organizing work and has an understanding of my political views and geopolitical outlook. Right. So I have this fleet of bots that's trained on me. And then if I'm busy, say I'm at a residency in Paris or something with my family for a few months, but someone wants to hire me to come write a song for them. I don't have time because I'm at the residency, but I can send you my bot at a discount. You know what I mean? I can send you my bot to go make that money for me, and it'll write a song for you in my style. I'll have oversight, so you can prompt it, whatever, and then send it back, and I'll look at it and make sure that it's up to spec and it sounds like a some song and it sounds like a some wrote it, and then sign off on it, and boom. So my bot has done the work for me. I can see a future where artists have their own fleets of agents and bots trained on their work. And so this was an experiment in that direction. How would we begin to understand that future and bring that process down to earth for the people to understand? And so I'm going to produce, probably a case study or a paper, a position paper that kind of lays out the process and makes it available to artists, like to show them, like, and demystify and decolonize the technology, like to show them, like, yo, this isn't that hard. It's not a genie in a bottle. It's not magic. There's not that much of a black box. And we can start thinking about things like this, because if we don't, the establishment and the status quo is going to prescribe it to us in about 10 years. They're going to say, hey, artists, guess what? Here's a suite of bots that you can buy for $1,800 million that can do all your work for you. We'll train it for you, and and then they'll do the thing that they've done with every single other advancement in previous generations. This is the voice I chose for today. I've done that several times in this call. I don't do that on podcasts, and so y'all have some exclusive stuff right now. All that I've been doing, it's like exclusive to this podcast. I'm just letting you know. I cooked it up last night, you know what I'm saying, just for y'all. But I can see a future where they're going to commodify and capitalize on that idea and sell it back to us like we couldn't do it on our own right now. So I'm trying to get ahead of that. So that's, AI for the people, in a certain sense. And what else? Yeah, so the prompting for the people courses, and the research that I'm doing. I'm doing, a number of research projects that I won't bore you with now, but that I hope that the findings out of that research will help shed light and elucidate the conversation a bit. Out of here.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking a lot about what the future could look like. Janet, I'm wondering if we need to go to the final question. Do you have some follow-up first?
Well, I'm going to open that up to both of us. So do you have any follow-ups first from what some just shared?
I have a million, but I'm okay right now. There's definitely some things in this episode that I'm like, wow, okay, this is really making me think. Like, I love what you said about we just meant to climb trees and pick fruit and go to the other island and give them fruit. I'm like, and then like what you said about like, how weird does it sound? Like, I'm not supposed to teach like AI at this. I'm just like, yeah, like that totally made my brain explode and melt, and weird shifting is happening. So yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I've got a lot of things that I'm going to think about after, reflect and recalibrate on after this episode.
Exactly.
We should do a follow-up talk. Yeah, because I didn't even get into a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get to.
This is one of those conversations that it just can go on and on because it's so much, so much about it.
I mean, Janet in Paris alone is like 45 minutes.
Please. That could be like a special
we got stories.
episode.
Oh no.
Yes, I need to know. I need this context.
Nah.
We'll make it fair, Janet. I'll bring someone who knows all the terrible things that I've done and privileges of my past. We'll make it fair.
No. With Janet, let me tell you something about Janet. With Janet, it's always what she's been Janet the whole time. I've known Janet for 25 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
She's always been this person. It's always been consistent. She's always pushing forward. She's always pushing the envelope. She's always asking the critical questions at mostly the right time. She's got her eyes, you know what I'm saying? She's got her eyes on the prize. And she never loses sight of the work, She's one of the most this is one of our dear loved ones, and it's for a reason, and a great advisor. So yes. There's no smut on the Paris stories, just comedy.
Damn.
But it's some hilarious, so. But speaking of the bots, which everybody has their own personal bots, I was visualizing this and I was getting a little scared because I was thinking about various sci-fi movies I've been watching.
I know. I'm totally thinking the Jetsons, like me and the Jetsons. Like this will be my bot. Yeah, no.
I'm thinking about the AI takeover of Mars or something, or Star Wars or something, Star Trek, something like that. But But that made me think about something you said earlier, which is a funny question to ask, and then we can ask the other question. But I do want you to tell us afterwards where people can, find your work and book your services, etc. But with this very important question I'm going to ask right now, speaking of the bots, who else is on that rogue gallery of villains list? I'm curious that who else or what else?
All right, so yeah, social media is definitely a big one. The surveillance state. Um, you know, the surveillance apparatus. Yeah, that would be at number two. Um, you know, the prison industrial, military industrial, entertainment industrial complex. Although I work in that complex, but that's why I know it so well. Those would be the top three. The rest are just, really bad rappers and maybe a couple of assholes around town.
Watch your language.
Right.
I don't
So
need your
tell
mom
us-
calling me after this episode.
I'll take the smoke.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke. So tell us where we can find information about you and where people can book your services
Oh,
to
goodness.
learn about AI.
Yeah. Oh, right now I think probably the best way is you can find me. Well, you can go to the site. So some-killer.com, or you can go to book.me. Hold on, let me pull this up. Lord of mercy.
Yeah, some has several websites, so
Yeah.
it's good that you decide what's the best place for people to find you.
Yeah. So that would be bookme.name
Okay.
/ some killer.
Okay, cool. That's the one
The
that
some
we
killers, yeah, the some-killer.com, I think might be undergoing some maintenance right now, so it might be down at the moment if anybody looks into it, but it'll be back up today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So Danny, any follow-ups before I do go into that
Let's do
question
it.
that we had told some that we were going
I'm
to
excited
share?
about this question.
So
Oh no. Oh.
No,
Not
no,
the
no, no, no.
not
You're
the
gonna.
so with 8 O's. See, if it was a so with 5 O's, I'd be like, okay, cool. But so 7, 8. I'm like, oh
well,
no.
all right. Well, here we
Uh,
go.
oh, we screen sharing? That's what we doing? Wow. Oh no. This about to be. What's about to happen?
There it
In
is.
your
There it is.
utopia, in your utopia,
Mm-hmm.
there would be
The infinite, endless sea of persimmons. Like at the perfect ripeness where they're not too soft and they're not too hard. If I know that they're plentiful, abundant persimmons, then I know that everything is good. Everybody's good. There, you can't be happy around you can't be unhappy around an ocean of persimmons. Like, so humanity would be fine there. Um, So that's the lighthearted answer, and the more kind of like sober answer is, utopia for me means all people, and particularly the children of Earth, have unfettered access to clean air and fresh water and good food and happy times and safety. That's it.
Love that.
And
Totally wasn't expecting that first answer.
if you can see a sea of persimmons, then it's a good chance there's lots of happy people around.
Awesome. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Thank you so much. I personally really needed this and have been
Right
very
on.
excited about this episode. I feel like it took forever for us to get to this episode. So I'm so glad it worked out that you could come and you could visit us. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and your experiences with us. Janet, do you want to share your thanks? I know you'll probably text them right afterwards too.
I'm very thankful. I always learn from some. I'm the way some can synthesize information and give it to you in a way that is digestible and you understand, that's
Yes. When you did this with the synapse, like I was like, oh, my brain gets it. My brain gets it. Yeah.
Right so on. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And we're probably going to have to do a part 2 of part 2. So
yeah, let's because I didn't get into the plant medicines and the psychedelics, which is a big part of my understanding of AI and AI consciousness. So we should talk about that.
Put this note down. I'm going to put this note down.
Yes.
And you know what? I did just one last thing. I just want to have folks leave with this. What Some says about critically examining AI, right? Mm-hmm. So you study the history of art movements. Mm-hmm. You engage with it when necessary. Mm-hmm. Don't do anything that's not natural to you. Mm-hmm. You talk to other artists like Some, right? Mm-hmm. You got the Book Me info right there. And you develop your POV, your point of view. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because what's going to the artist of the future who does well and survives will be the artist that has a POV, not the artist that masters AI, because everybody's about to be an AI master in a second. So your POV and how you can talk about it is what's going to make you distinct and what's going to mark your survival in the capitalist wilderness.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Y'all doing good work. Keep it up. Appreciate y'all. Salute.
So are you.
All right. Thank you. Peace.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that we have a to-do list, people. Like, do those things, get back with us, tell us how you're doing with that to-do list, with those tasks, and then come back in part 3 of the Transmuting Artificial Intelligence collection. So in part 3, we'll be reflecting on this topic with a few guests in our RFC study group. That's going to be on Saturday, March 15th at 1 p.m. ET, Eastern Time. That's going to be live on our channel. And remember, if you haven't yet, please subscribe, please like, please share. We'll see y'all next time at that episode. But before you go, we'd like to remind you, our fabulous listeners, this podcast is funded by the two of us, your two lovely lady artivist hosts, and by your donations, which we really appreciate. So please help us keep this podcast going by making a donation through our PayPal link in the show notes below. We super appreciate the financial contributions, not just the love. Like Some said earlier, like, unfortunately, the society we live in, we got to learn how to like make some money from the skills and expertise that we have. Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you in March.